We're going to be recording today's session for you and also providing the deck so you can pass this along to your colleagues. Let me give you just a quick context and a little bit of background on the Murray Company. What we do is, for those of you not familiar with us, we basically sell membership sponsorships, ads, and exhibits for associations. And in fact, we've seen over time as a company this growing opportunity of thought leadership being absolutely in the sweet spot for national trade associations and professional societies. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of our experiences today and the opportunities that we see, and we're even going to give you some initial steps of how you might be able to move your organization into this phase of sponsorship development. My colleague that I'm bringing on board with us to do this today is Bob Blum with the Blum Group. And Bob, we're so pleased to have you. Bob and I started together about 12 years ago. He and I worked together and collaborated on a presentation and an in-depth study of the fastest growing associations in the country. We did it at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and it's called the Competitive Association. We started working together there. He is one of the foremost specialists in thought leadership and content marketing, co-founding the Blum Group in 1998. And man, he gets people in publications like Harvard Business Review, Forbes, Business Week, you name it. He's one of the best in the business. So glad you're here. And folks, I want to give you this little note too. Boston got hit by a major storm last night, and he's dialing in and he's participating while his power's out. Man, Bob, welcome. Glad you're with us.
Yes, that is true. Thank you, JP, and hi, everybody.
So
maybe
go ahead, Bob.
Let's say a little more background maybe on Blum Group. You may not have heard of us. As JP mentioned, we've been around 20 years. Our clients include some of the world's biggest consulting, IT services firms, pharmaceutical firms, accounting firms, software firms, computer hardware firms. Cisco is a client, Deloitte, Tata Consultancy Services, and even the U.S. Air Force Academy has been a client for the last year. So kind of an eclectic group of clients.
So let's start this, Bob, by talking about what is thought leadership. So thought leadership, if you look at the definition, it's the eminence of an individual or group that wants to achieve by developing, delivering, marketing superior expertise that solves a significant problem. Here's what that means to me. It is taking your expertise, your experience, your specialization, and your passion and helping through marketing solve clients' problems. That's what this is all about, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Bob, any other thoughts on thought leadership?
Yeah, one other thought on this definition, and it's something JP and I have been talking about. The definition is perhaps a broader definition of thought leadership than many others might have in mind. And the reason it's broader is that the definition is not limited to professional services firms like consulting or accounting firms or law firms or investment banks. These are firms who we all know their product is pure expertise. They charge you by the hour. They've got fees, they charge you by the hour. The definition is broader so that it includes other business-to-business firms like manufacturers that have realized that in order to sell their product in commoditizing markets, that they have to demonstrate much greater knowledge about their customers and the problems of their customers, the problems that those companies solve for their customers.
So here's the thing that you might not have recognized, and that is, you may already know this. Associations and their leaders need to be seen as thought leaders, and you may already be doing it. And in fact, what you see is some of the most competitive and the best associations have a deep expertise in the industry, and that's why That's why your articles are published or you have your own publications. That's why you're quoted in the media. That's why you present at conferences. That's why you have your own conferences. And this is why you actually develop your own research on behalf of members. So this is already, folks, our point here is you're already in this lane. Your association, in many cases, is seen as a thought leader. Okay? So this is a natural play. This is a natural shift for you to make this thought leadership opportunity possibly available to your sponsors and leveraging that for greater value and greater revenue. So here's the thing. We're already in the game. You're already in the game as an association. And the best thought leadership, the best thought leaders in the association space are also the most relevant, the most competitive, and have the most value to their members. So then we say, well, but your sponsors now want to be seen as thought leaders too. And that is truly the case. We've got some data here that I think is going to be very interesting to you. Because your members, they know that their customers and your members are attracted to thought leaders. If you look at the slide here, 33% of executives in a Hill & Knowlton study said that they read thought leadership content every day. And 98%, almost 100% of executives say that they want to engage with thought leadership because it's an important part of growing their business. Therefore, this is a great opportunity for us then to apply that to our sponsors and our programs in the association world, because we know that executives are already engaging in this way. They want this thought leadership content. So I want to tell you something else that's going on, and that is your sponsors, your vendors, your suppliers have also been getting the mandate of becoming thought leaders in many places, including the Challenger Sale Book. Hey folks, if there's one thing I want to make a recommendation to you today is if you're in the sponsorship or business development game, go buy the Challenger Sale and start reading it. Bob, tell us about some of your experiences with the Challenger Sale and the way sponsors are starting to understand the value of thought leadership marketing.
Sure. Just about every one of our clients, and our clients at Blum Group are B2B companies, from service to manufacturing companies. And they all pretty much, they all mention the Challenger Sale as influencing them about how their salespeople need to act. And you may have read the Challenger Sale. If you haven't, as JP says, you should. Challenger Sale was published in 2011 by the Corporate Executive Board, which is now owned by Gartner Group. And they did research that found that the most successful sales reps, B2B sales reps, think about these as the sales reps that work at your sponsors, your vendor members. The most successful of these sales reps are essentially successful because they're thought leaders. They act as thought leaders with customers. They have a very different view of the world. They understand the customer's business. They love to debate with the customer. They're not just order takers. And they push the customer's thinking. And they push the customer's thinking to redefine the problem that the customer has. So your sponsors have been reading books like this, like the Challenger Sale, and these books are telling them your salespeople, and therefore your organization, needs to be seen as thought leaders.
So the takeaway there for those of us in the association sponsorship space is this. Hey, their salespeople are learning to operate this way. So if the coffee break sponsorship isn't resonating with them, this is why. They're starting to learn to sell this way. So our next kind of topic here is, why are associations great places to develop this program? Here's why. And folks, I want to tell you a real life experience. It's because associations are trusted. It's because you are the default, and I don't mean that in a negative way, you are the default position for an industry. You are the place where people grow. So this is the thing that must be left, and frankly, if you're not being trusted as an association, you probably have no opportunity here. But most of you are. And I know many of you that are on the call today. You're the trusted resource. I'll give you an example. Bob and I worked together on the competitive association at the chamber. We were able to get in and interview the top CEOs from places like the Society of Human Resource Management, the Project Management Institute, AARP Services. We were able to get that in-depth conversation about how they grew their organizations, National Restaurant Association, because we had trust. So you have the platform in trust to start to have this great dialogue about what's important. You can put together focus groups. Just did it. We know we just did focus groups for clients last week. You are the venue for trust to be built, and therefore the foundation for thought leadership. And you also are the place where all of this can be distributed through your publications, through research, through your podcasts. I want you to do those. Through speeches at live events, white papers, and blogs. All of this delivery of thought leadership is already sitting in your organization. So that's why associations are a great place for sponsors to come to be a thought leader. Okay? But, and I know this because I've done it, I've seen it, see it happen every day. Many of our associations are still blocking sponsors from presenting as thought leaders. And so here's my experience. Here's why. I know this happened. Many moons ago, some guy got up and made a sales pitch at an event. Someday, maybe recently, maybe many moons ago, a leader on the board said, "Damn, folks, there are too many vendors here." And in some cases, the association, let's say the meeting planning department, is more than happy just to settle for coffee breaks. So here's what then happens. We can find these companies that, by the way, we see on the Challenger sale, want to be thought leaders, want the opportunities to do research with your members, and then distribute it through your platforms. Here's what we do to them. We confine them to exhibit booths. We don't let them speak. We keep them out of content delivery. We want them just to buy ads, and then we wonder why they're not happy or why they want to go somewhere else. Or we wonder why we can't attract other players in the marketplace, or non-endemic sponsors that I know many of you want. Here's the reason why that might be the case. In fact, I wanted Bob to talk about an experience that he had with a client that actually avoided associations. So Bob, talk to this a little bit.
Sure. This firm is a large professional services firm, I'll call them that, and they like to do primary research. And we've talked to them over the years that we've done research with them, the last 7 years, about perhaps partnering with associations to do this research. And they've weighed it, and they've hemmed and hawed, and they said, isn't it easier and faster just to hire a research panel company, like a Research Now or an SSI or an EIU? And will the associations really open up their doors? And they're members of several associations. So, and we've heard other discussions along those same lines. And so many of our clients, probably most, believe that associations will be difficult to work with on the research front, that the association will shield our client, who's a B2B company, who could be one of your sponsors. The association won't let them get our client to the members for a survey or an interview. Many of our members have complained about associations forcing sponsors to, if they want a speaking role, the only way to get it is pay per play. Even if our client, we've helped them get a Harvard Business Review article or even a best-selling book, they're still looked at as vendors. And on the publication front, they go, our clients, and we direct them to the easiest path. And that's often not the publications that associations run. So as you see on this slide, the results are one client spent, it says more than $300,000. It's actually more than $400,000 when I added it all up. One client alone in the last 7 years has spent that on a research panel of providers. Okay, so that's money that could have gone to you guys, to you associations. And we have placed dozens of articles in the publications mentioned here: Harvard Business Review, Forbes, Financial Times, Bloomberg Business Week, and many industry publications not owned by associations, and they're quite happy with that. But these articles are of such quality, if they're accepted by Harvard Business Review, they're pretty strong quality. So, they could be articles that would run in your publication.
So, Bob, the takeaway that I had when we were talking about this is if you see your industry having articles written about them in Harvard Business Review and other places, that means they're going around you. And these are places these are actually articles about your industry that could be delivered at your meetings, in your publications, in your podcasts, right? That's what we're starting to see here. And this 300,000 of them developing research, interviewing people in an industry, and then distributing some of this content could have been your cash. You're right. That is the takeaway. So that's the opportunity here. So the next thing we wanted to make sure that we did here is we said, okay, a lot of you want new sponsors. I remember I'm talking to somebody the other day, we're working on a sponsorship program. He's like, yeah, it's great that you have these people, but what about, let's just name it, what about Microsoft? What about Deloitte? What about these other big firms? And here's what we're starting to see, Bob, is most attractive thought leadership prospects, if you want to get to these kinds of companies, they want thought leadership opportunities. So talk to this slide about LinkedIn profiles and thought leadership and their titles and what that means to us.
Sure. So this was a 2016 analysis of people with the words thought leadership in either their job title or their role description. And we're going to update this study this year. So we did this analysis because we thought that if somebody has the term thought leadership in their title or job description, that might be a good indication that their company is serious about thought leadership marketing. So we did this analysis, and we looked at 219 profiles of people, and then we categorized them by the industry that their company was in. So you can see the percentages, and one of the things that surprised us is that the folks who want to be thought leaders, as a point I mentioned earlier, it goes way beyond the consulting and other professional services sectors. Software and online services companies, technology hardware. I mentioned Cisco as a client of ours. That's a good example. We've had Microsoft as a client for thought leadership. So there are many other sectors. If this is a good proxy, that is those who have thought leadership in their job title, there are many other sectors that want to be thought leaders that either are sponsors or could be sponsors of your association.
That's right. That's absolutely right. So our next slide is, all right, now, guys, the next 10 minutes, because I always guarantee that we're running right on time, is I want to tell, how would you start? If you buy into what we're thought leading about today, how do you start as an association? And this, I think, keeps you from falling into the old trap of, hey, man, if I give somebody an opportunity to speak at an event or deliver information, all they're going to do is pitch. These are the steps we believe can keep you from getting into that problem. This is how to start, and then we're going to give you actually a real life example, a series of examples of how you might go about the process. The first thing is help the vendors create a thought leadership strategy. And this is by fundamentally asking this question: what problems are your members facing? Because you want your vendors and your thought leader partners to possibly address the most critical issues. Right? So now we're starting from an issue of, hey, not what they want to pitch us, what our members are facing and the problems that they want solved. That's going to be the topic. Then step 2 is set the standards. Some of these guys show up for a sales pitch, and it's because we didn't give them the clarity around what was about to happen and what the expectations are. So we set standards for the presentations, the articles, the research studies that they may want to develop with our members, blog posts, or other content. It's got to be relevant. It's got to have some evidence. They need some practicality so people can use it. Rigor and real clarity in what the point is. Bob, these first 2 items, what have you? Do you have some thoughts or other kind of color commentary to these first 2 items on this slide?
Sure. On the first point, the helping the sponsor create a thought leadership strategy and starting with a problems your members are facing. An example that might illustrate this is if you're an association of, let's say, commercial building, firms that build buildings, big commercial buildings, and obviously the construction equipment manufacturers would be a sponsor group. So you might ask your members of that building association, what issues are the biggest problems that you're facing? And so something like workplace accidents that involve construction equipment is a big issue. You might then approach that sponsor of the construction equipment manufacturer, a Deere or a Caterpillar, and say, are you interested in doing some research of our members on this issue? What they're doing to lower the number of accidents around around site equipment. So that's kind of how that works. It's starting with what members, what's on their minds, and then connecting that to what your sponsors would want to weigh in on, would want to be seen as the experts on.
That's right. And then the other part of this, then, is we've got to help those vendors develop and capture their thought leadership for these speeches and articles. So in some cases, Bob mentioned these professional consulting firms. They may already have that kind of bandwidth and they may have that expertise. But what you've seen, Bob, is that some organizations that want to get into this may not have the ability to capture the thought leadership and actually develop the speeches and articles, right?
That is true. The big management consulting firms typically have these skills. The law firms generally don't. The accounting firms have them less than in lower amounts than the consulting firms do, and other sectors we think are kind of looking hard for these skills.
So you may need to use your in-house communication shop. You may need to engage a consulting firm or somebody to help them develop the program. And we'll show you the business model here in the next slide or two. And then here, I think this is very important. We're going to ask these folks to be thought leadership partners in our association for at least a year. And they're going to get a number of opportunities here. I absolutely believe because their investment and their desire to be a thought leader partner for our association, that they must become association members, not just advertisers. This is a whole, you want to talk about member value, you're going to give them an unprecedented opportunity, so membership must go along with this program. All right, so the next slide, folks, in the next 5 minutes, we're going to outline for you what a sample thought leadership program might look like. Now, There are a number of different levels, from 250 grand to 100 to 50, whatever works best in your ecosystem, but this is a $250,000 program. We're going to make a decision as an association that we're going to identify certain problems that we would like thought leadership partners to help address. We're going to make available certain unique inventory for them. The publication we have, newsletters, webinars, conferences to talk about this issue. Then what's going to happen is your sponsorship sales team is going to go out and pitch this program to existing big players, but also some of these markets that we've identified. So they can gain alignment by developing this thought leader designation. We can sell that program, and we can pitch the overall thought leadership program management. You're going to have to run this part of it for them. So you're going to have to help them deliver these programs, or at least help manage part of that for them, because they've got to be ready. And you're going to need to give them, their sales force, some assistance in how to deliver this kind of content when they're pitching your members or they're talking to your members. Okay? So you need a sponsorship sales team that I think, and I know some folks, my goodness, I know they're on the call today, some folks that are very good, and they're positioning themselves as the first ever that I've seen thought leadership department within an association. And I'm thrilled about it, because this is the role that you need to be playing here. The next slide then gets into the nitty-gritty. Then you're going to need a thought leadership content team that starts to work, as Bob mentioned, working the research and capturing some of this content. And it may be helping that thought leader develop a survey, develop a research report with focus groups, develop white papers, articles for the association publication, an online webinar, heck, just kind of like today, right? If you did that research with a thought leader under your banner, with a conference presentation, or at a seminar, or at a live event. You've got unique delivery mechanisms that you can use, but you're going to need a thought leadership team after it's sold to develop this content, because you're going to want to oversee that. Bob, any thoughts here on this slide?
No, I mean, I think that you can expand or you contract this. And I think a lot of it depends on what a sponsor is up for.
Yeah.
Right? Not just what an association is up for. Is how ambitious is a sponsor?
Yeah. Because can they deliver?
I imagine some sponsors might want to spend more.
Yeah. Or, this is the $250,000 program that we've set out here as a premise, but you might have one that's only $50,000 that would be the delivery of a white paper and a conference presentation, right? So you're going to have to scale this based on the capability and the appetite and the budget of your thought leadership partners. So here's where we bring this all together. So I want to make sure, guys, we're going to send this to you so you can walk through this process in your own organization. Here's what I think is going to happen. And oh, by the way, let me tell you something real quick. We've developed this methodology, and we're actually executing it within the Murray Company. And it's growing our client base immensely, because we're starting to position ourselves as thought leader, and now people are buying, we're not selling to them. Okay? Here's what's going to happen. Your sponsors are enthused about participating because you've given them the opportunity that they've always wanted, and increasingly they're becoming familiar with through the book, The Challenger Sale. You're developing a more value-added partnership with them. Your members want the very best content of how to work with your organization and how to be successful in the industry, and they're going to learn from this sponsored content. Okay? And the members are going to develop even better partnerships with your sponsors, which is a good thing too. because that means the association is going to hang around. And the end game is you have more content, more revenue sources than ever before. My final suggestion is this. If you're going, oh my gosh, I've got a prospectus out there right now. What am I going to do with it? Nothing. Keep it. What I'm saying is I would add an entirely new program simply focused on delivering this kind of effort. Don't worry about the guy that's sponsoring the coffee break lunch or sponsoring the dadgum, chicken lunch at your annual meeting. This is a new opportunity, and I would build it out as such. It's 2:30. I promise to end on time. Bob, you've been fantastic. Is there anything you might add?
No, I think we've covered it. There's a lot more to talk about for anybody who is interested. So.
Yep, there is. So what we're going to do is we're going to send this to you, this deck to you. Bob and I will be on hand to offer any advice on how to set this up for you. We're actually going to develop a similar webinar for sponsors and for people that want to become thought leaders in associations. So we're going to work it the other way so these people will be ready to come to you with these ideas. This is a fantastic and exciting time, and we're going to be a resource to you as hopefully you embrace thought leadership as a part of your association. Folks from all over the country, a number of different associations, God bless you. Thanks for joining us. On behalf of Bob Boudet, I'm J.P. Murray. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.